You probably think the smartphone or the tablet you're holding right now is just a tool, like a handy piece of glass and metal that lets you check your email, order a pizza, or, listen to this deep dive.
Why, it just feels like a completely normal utilitarian thing.
Exactly. But biologically speaking, it is an evolutionary mutation. Today, we're exploring why that piece of glass in your hand isn't just changing your daily schedule, it is actively rewriting the human species.
It really is.
And it's actually the latest phase of a biological alteration that has been happening for over 2 million years.
Yeah, and it forces a complete inversion of how we normally view the world. I mean, we operate under this assumption that human ingenuity creates technology just to serve our immediate needs.
To make our lives easier, basically.
Right. But we rarely stop to consider the reverse. The very moment a new technology is introduced into our environment, that technology turns around and begins to reinvent our biology.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we're looking at a super fascinating framework today from a source text called 49th P Humans and Technology.
A really dense but incredible text.
Oh, for sure. And the text outlines something called the way of POE. And just to clarify up front for you listening, POE stands for the principles of evolution.
Right, the fundamental mechanisms of change.
Exactly. So the core mission of this framework is to map out the sheer scale of this human-technology coevolution. We aren't just shaping our tools. Our tools are fundamentally shaping our bodies, our cognitive capacities, and our future.
Yeah, the premise here relies on understanding that human development and technological advancement they're locked in this continuous dynamic interplay.
Like a loop?
Precisely. It's a feedback loop that stretches all the way back to the dawn of hominids. I mean, the tools themselves drastically change over time, but the underlying mechanism, this inescapable mutual transformation, remains a constant force throughout all of history.
So to really grasp the gravity of what our screens and our algorithms are doing to us today, we have to recognize that this biological dance didn't start in Silicon Valley.
No, definitely not.
It started in the dirt over 2 million years ago, when an early human picked up a rock and, decided to change its shape.
And on the surface, a fashion stone seems purely pragmatic, right? Our ancestors used these early implements to crack open bands from marrow or to defend themselves from predators.
Just basic survival stuff.
Exactly, a raw survival mechanism. But the neurological implications were just staggering. Because creating a stone tool isn't just banging two rocks together.
It takes some serious thought.
It does. It requires you to look at a raw, shapeless stone and mentally visualize the blade hidden inside it.
Oh, wow. So you have to hold an abstract template in your mind while physically manipulating the object in front of you.
Which demands an incredible leap in working memory and hand-eye coordination. I mean, striking a rock at the precise angle to flake off a sharp edge that forced the development of highly complex, fine motor skills.
It wasn't just a physical workout, it was a brain workout.
Literally. That physical act of tool-making stimulated neurogenesis.
Which is the growth of new neural pathways, right?
Yep. New brain cells. Furthermore, a single hominid couldn't easily survive alone with just a rock. They had to teach the rest of the tribe how to make that specific tool.
Ah, so they had to communicate.
Exactly. That mandated the development of cooperative behaviors and early social structures.
So survival pushed us to create the tool, but the tool rewired our brains to be capable of higher-level thought and teaching. That makes total sense.
It's that constant loop again.
Right. But sharp rocks and hand axes only took us so far. Like, as long as our ancestors were purely relying on what they could catch and eat raw, our evolutionary potential was capped.
We hit a biological ceiling.
Exactly. To break through that biological ceiling, we had to fundamentally change our relationship with energy. We had to control our environment permanently. And that brings us to the absolute game changer, the mastery of fire.
Oh, fire was everything. It gave early humans warmth and protection, pushing back the darkness and keeping predators at bay.
Which is huge on its own.
It is, but the monumental shift, the catalyst that fundamentally altered our anatomy, was using fire to cook food.
Right. I was thinking about the mechanics of this, and the best analogy I can come up with is like a literal hardware upgrade for a computer.
Oh, I like that.
Because if you want to run a massive, incredibly complex, high-powered processor, you can't just plug it into a cheap battery.
No, you'd fry it or it just wouldn't run.
Right. You need a massive upgrade to your power supply. That's exactly what fire was. The mastery of fire and cooked food provided the biological power supply, those dense, easily digestible calories needed to physically fuel the massive energy demands of the growing human brain.
What's fascinating here is that the framework explicitly describes this as a dynamic dance of mutual influence.
How so?
Well, fire wasn't just a phenomenon happening outside of the human body. Cooking acted as an external stomach.
An external stomach, that is a wild image.
But it's true. It broke down complex proteins and fibrous plants before they ever even entered our mouths. Because we were no longer spending massive amounts of caloric energy digesting raw food, our evolutionary biology adapted.
It didn't need to work so hard.
Exactly. Over thousands of years, our digestive tracts physically shrank. The massive jaw muscles required to chew raw roots for hours a day weakened and receded.
Wow.
And that, in turn, allowed the cranial vault to expand. We quite literally traded gut size for brain size.
That's incredible.
We became biologically dependent on an external chemical reaction.
And it wasn't just a biological calorie dump either. Fire created an entirely new social architecture.
Oh, completely.
Because before fire, when the sun went down, hominids had to hide in trees or caves and essentially just shut down for the night.
There was nothing else to do.
Right. But fire extended the day. It created a safe, illuminated space where the community gathered.
The original living room.
Yeah. This centralized location fostered language development, storytelling, and the transmission of complex knowledge across generations. The campfire was, mechanically speaking, the original social network.
That is a great way to put it. It illustrates the principles of evolution perfectly. A new tool modifies the environment.
Which changes how we act.
Exactly. That modified environment alters our daily behavior. And over generational time, that new behavior fundamentally changes our physical biology and our cognitive capacity. It is an inseparable compounding loop.
But, the campfire and the hunter-gatherer lifestyle eventually hit its own limits.
Yeah, population growth forced a change.
Right. To support larger populations, we eventually stopped chasing our food and started growing it. We shifted into permanent settlements and birthed agriculture.
A massive turning point.
It was. Now, I understand how farming changed human society. It gave us surplus food, which allowed for the division of labor, cities, and eventually complex civilization.
The foundation of the modern world.
Sure. But I am going to push back here. We always think of farming as an economic or cultural shift. Wait, farming actually changed our bones and our immune systems?
It absolutely did.
That sounds a bit like science fiction. Like, how does planting wheat count as a technology that reshapes human anatomy?
Well, take a look at the fossil record. When archaeologists actually compare the skeletons of early farmers to their nomadic hunter-gatherer ancestors, they don't see stronger bodies.
Really? You'd think a steady food supply would make them healthier.
You would think so, but they actually see a sudden, drastic drop in bone density. They see shorter statures.
Oh, why?
The biomechanics of farming, the repetitive, grueling labor of bending over to harvest crops or, spending hours on your knees grinding grain on stone querns. It left permanent lesions and signs of osteoarthritis on human vertebrae and joints.
Oh, that sounds awful.
It was tough. We traded robust, generalized physical health for the security of a guaranteed caloric surplus.
So the physical act of using agricultural tools completely remodeled the human skeleton.
It did, and it goes even deeper than our bones.
Wait, how much deeper can it go?
Consider the biological trade-off of living in dense, permanent settlements alongside domesticated animals. Cows, pigs, and sheep carry pathogens.
Oh, right. Disease?
When we created the technology of animal husbandry, we inadvertently created a perfect breeding ground for zoonotic diseases. Viruses and bacteria jumping from animals to humans.
Which wasn't happening as much when we were just hunting them.
Exactly. Diseases like smallpox and tuberculosis began ravaging these early cities. This technologically induced environment forced our immune systems to rapidly evolve.
We had to adapt or die out.
Right. Human populations that survived had to develop hypervigilant immune responses just to cope with the new reality their own agricultural technology created.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because once agriculture allowed for massive populations and surplus wealth, society became way too complex for the human brain to manage alone.
Yeah, the administrative burden was just too high.
Right, you couldn't just memorize who owned which sheep or who paid what tax. We had to invent a new technology to handle it.
Which brings us to information technology.
Yes. We shift from tools that changed our bodies to tools that permanently altered the architecture of the mind, the invention of written language, and eventually the printing press.
This is such a crucial leap because before the written word, human memory was the sole repository of a culture's entire existence.
Everything was oral tradition.
Everything, every law, every myth, every survival technique had to be perfectly memorized and recited. The human brain was literally the only hard drive available.
Which takes up a massive amount of cognitive bandwidth.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, writing allowed humanity to externalize its memory.
Like saving a file to a flash drive.
Precisely. We offloaded the heavy lifting of rote memorization onto clay tablets, papyrus, and eventually paper books. By freeing up the hippocampus from having to retain massive oral epics, the brain was suddenly allowed to reallocate its resources.
What did it do with that extra power?
It could engage the prefrontal cortex in higher-level complex abstract thought, things like mathematics, philosophy, and advanced engineering.
It is wild to think about reading not just as consuming a story, but as interacting with a technology that permanently rewired human cognition.
We changed our brains just by reading.
We literally changed how we think by changing where we store our thoughts. So we've established the pattern here. Stone tools and fire physically grew our brains over millions of years.
Right.
Agriculture reshaped our skeletons and immune systems over millennia.
Yeah.
The printing press rewired our capacity for abstract thought over centuries.
All building on each other.
But that brings us to the present day. We are now in the digital era, and we are dealing with psychological and neurological changes happening in real time right this second.
Yes. The velocity of change we are experiencing right now is entirely unprecedented in the biological record.
It feels incredibly fast.
It is. We are no longer waiting thousands of years to witness the evolutionary effects of our tools. The modern digital era represents a completely new wave of transformative change, and the mechanisms are incredibly potent.
I want to focus on this because the source material points out that our constant interaction with screens, algorithms, and social media is actively rewriting our attention spans, our social interactions, and our fundamental sense of self.
It's hitting us on every level.
But I want to know how. Like, we aren't just easily distracted. There's a biological mechanism at play here, isn't there?
There is a highly sophisticated mechanism. Modern algorithms are engineered to hijack the exact same dopamine feedback loops that our ancestors used to survive.
The same ones.
The exact same ones. Early humans got a hit of dopamine when they found a rare source of high-calorie berries. It was the brain's way of saying, remember this, it keeps you alive.
So dopamine is basically a survival reward.
Exactly. But today, digital interfaces use variable reward schedules, much like a slot machine, to trigger those same dopamine releases.
Oh, that makes sense. You pulled a refresher guide, and you don't know what you're going to get.
Right. But instead of foraging for food, we are foraging for novel information and social validation. Over time, this constant overstimulation downregulates our dopamine receptors.
It means we need more and more just to feel normal.
Exactly. And that physically alters our ability to maintain sustained attention on slow, complex tasks.
And it completely shifts how we form our identity, too.
Yeah.
For millions of years, a human sense of self was forged by their immediate physical community. Your tribe validated you.
You knew exactly where you stood.
Right. But now, we've outsourced that validation to a global digital network. We are tying our self-worth to engagement metrics and curated digital avatars.
It's a completely unnatural social environment.
It feels fundamentally different from anything we've discussed so far. The shift to stone tools took 2 million years. The shift to agriculture took 10,000 years.
And this current shift.
The shift to a hyper-connected algorithmic brain. That has happened in less than 2 decades. It feels like humanity is attempting a 2-million-year evolution speedrun right through the screens of our smartphones.
This raises an important question, which sits at the very heart of the modern tension. The underlying mechanism of coevolution is identical. Our tools are reshaping our neurology and behaviors, but the speed is incredibly destabilizing.
Because biology can't keep up.
Exactly. Biological evolution is naturally slow. It requires generations to adapt to a new environment. But technological evolution is now exponential.
You don't have the luxury of millennia anymore.
No, we don't. We can't slowly adapt our social structures or our neurochemistry. We are being forced to adapt rapidly in real time to mitigate the intense psychological downsides of these digital tools while trying to, extract their immense potential.
Because if we just let the algorithms passively rewire our attention spans and our social bonds, the biological and psychological toll could be devastating.
It could be catastrophic, yes.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most vital aspect of our source text, Because this digital speedrun is happening so fast and hitting our identities so directly, how do we survive it?
We have to be intentional.
Right. The way of PoE actually provides a philosophical framework to navigate this, introducing the concept of conscious coevolution.
And the concept of conscious coevolution is essentially an active rebellion against passive consumption.
How so?
Well, in the past, humanity sort of just stumbled forward. Early farmers couldn't possibly have known that harvesting grain would alter their skeletal structure, just as early hominids didn't know cooking meat would shrink their digestive tract.
They were just trying not to starve.
Exactly. It was an unconscious evolution. But today, we have a unique advantage. Awareness.
We know what's happening to us.
We do. We are acutely aware that our devices are changing our attention, our politics, and our mental health. Because we possess that awareness, the text argues we have a profound responsibility to actively guide our own evolution.
And the framework uses some very specific, almost cosmic terminology to describe this responsibility. It states that technology must be driven toward human flourishing and synergy, rather than allowing it to perpetuate destructive patterns and entropy.
Synergy versus entropy. It's a powerful dichotomy.
It envisions a future where humans and technology dance in harmony, amplifying our ability to act as conscious co-creators of our own reality.
It is an incredibly ambitious vision. It positions technology not as an overlord or a simple utility, but as a deliberate partner in designing a sustainable future.
So what does this all mean? Like, how do we take terms like synergy and entropy and apply them to you, the person listening right now, holding a device in your hand?
It has to be grounded in daily habits.
Exactly. And the best mental model I took away from this is the filter of the creator versus the consumer.
Oh, that's a great way to frame it.
Right. Entropy, in a cognitive sense, is disorder and fragmentation. It is the act of being a passive consumer. When you are mindlessly doom-scrolling, letting an algorithm fragment your attention span and dictate your emotional state, you are succumbing to entropy.
You're letting the tool use you.
Yes. Synergy, on the other hand, is order and amplification. It is being a creator. Synergy is using that exact same piece of glass and metal to learn a complex skill, to build a business, or to connect deeply with someone halfway across the globe.
That is the perfect practical application of the framework. We have to recognize that every single time you unlock your screen, you are making a biological and cognitive choice.
It's that serious.
It really is. You are casting a vote for the type of mind you are going to inhabit. To practice conscious coevolution is to consistently ask yourself, is this tool currently doing the thinking for me, or is it amplifying my own thinking?
That's the core question.
We have to demand and utilize technology that elevates our cognitive capacity, rather than technology that strips it away just for engagement metrics.
It's about taking the wheel. For 2 million years, we reacted to our tools. Now we have to consciously design the architecture of our own minds.
We have to be the architects.
We really do. We've traced an incredible journey today. We started in the deep past, visualizing the mental leap required to flake a stone hand axe and trigger neurogenesis.
The first spark of change.
We looked at how the external stomach of the campfire provided the massive biological energy required to grow human consciousness. We examined the brutal biomechanical trade-offs of agriculture that literally reshaped our bones and immune system.
A painful but necessary step.
And we explored how the printing press freed our prefrontal cortex to engage in complex, abstract reasoning.
All of which provides the crucial context for the digital era we are currently navigating. I mean, we're still in the exact same evolutionary loop.
The very same one.
The only difference is the speed and the stakes. Our digital environment is aggressively remodeling our dopamine pathways, our social cohesion, and our fundamental understanding of our own identities.
Which means you, the person listening to this right now, are not at the end of history. You are an active participant in this 2 million year ongoing mutation.
You're in the middle of it.
Every habit you build with your device is a tiny microstep in the ongoing reshaping of the human species.
And that awareness is your greatest asset. It is what allows you to choose synergy over entropy.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. We talk about how the printing press fundamentally changed the human brain because we no longer had to use our mental energy for massive rote memorization.
Right, we offloaded it to paper.
Today, we are taking that to an extreme, completely unprecedented level. We are offloading nearly all of our daily cognitive friction onto our devices.
Almost entirely.
We outsource our spatial navigation to GPS. We outsource our factual recall to search engines. We outsource our scheduling and even basic mathematics to algorithms.
They do the heavy lifting.
So if our external devices are now doing all the heavy lifting of remembering, calculating, and organizing, what entirely new, undiscovered cognitive abilities might the human brain evolve to fill up all that newly freed up mental space in the coming centuries?
The brain is relentlessly efficient. It will not let that neural real estate sit empty. The real question is, what new frontiers of human thought are waiting to be unlocked?
It is something fascinating to think about the next time you ask your phone for directions. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Stay curious, be conscious of the choices you make with your screens today, and remember that when you hold that smartphone, you are holding the future evolution of humanity right in the palm of your hand.